everyone, and welcome to ArthaPoint Presents NTA UGC Management Sessions. For all the applicants appearing for a NET examination in management, we will be covering the complete syllabus in a very easy and a crisp manner. So, the syllabus of NET management usually comprises of about 10 units. These 10 units are majorly concerned with management, organizational behavior, finances, human resources, marketing, and goes all up till entrepreneurship development. Here in this channel, we will be discussing each and every unit in such a manner that you can retain and remember the theory very easily. I will be giving out certain very easy shortcuts so that you can remember each and everything. So let us begin by discussing the very first unit, a segment of the very first unit, that is management and its functions. Before going into any detail, it is very essential to understand what does the term management stand for. This is a very common term that comes from the word manage, a very day-to-day word that we use. So we say, I'm managing a certain thing. I am managing my time. I am managing my work. I am managing my personal life. But what does this term actually mean when it comes to a company or a firm or a business? So management is usually seen as managing men tactfully. Now, a firm usually comprises of both human resources and physical resources. Therefore, we say that management is basically managing either individuals or a group of people to get things done in a particular fashion. So there would be certain missions of a company, right? Or there would be certain visions, certain goals of a company. So in order to fulfill this mission, this vision, this goal, we manage the human resources of the company, the physical resources of the company to achieve these particular goals, right? Now, the way a company manages its people, so we have seen this even in a country, right? So either there could be democracy or there could be dictatorship, for example, right? So the way in which the people are managed, it influences how they feel. It influences the behavior of the people of that particular country, right? Similarly, the way in which a company or a firm is managed, it influences how the people working in an organization would behave, right? Now, let us move on to few definitions that are given by people. So the very first definition that we have here is by Mr. P. Ducker. He says that management is a multi-purpose organ that manages a business and manages workers and work. So here we get three things, right? Number one, you manage a business, easy. You manage workers, easy. And you manage the work, right? So it is a multi-purpose organ. So you manage a business by setting up certain goals, certain vision, certain mission. You manage the workers by aligning them to those goals, those missions. And lastly, you manage work. So probably there is a certain so the marketing team has probably asked the finance team to launch a budget so that they could come up with a new advertisement, right? So this is how the management would go. The finance team would look at how much money can they spend, then they would pass it on to the marketing team, and then they would go on and decide what the advertisement would be. So this is a chain of decisions that has to be taken, which is a core part of management, right? Let us look at another definition by Mr. Hens Wilrich and Harold Kuhns. They say that management is a process of designing and maintaining an environment in which individuals working together in groups efficiently accomplish selected items. So individuals, we discussed it here as well, that either individuals or a group of people working together, they're able to efficiently accomplish whatever the goal is. So this term efficiently is very, very important, because look, anybody can complete a given task. So if I tell you that by the end of the day, you have to hire, say, 10 people in the company, because we need urgent recruitments. People are less in the company and we need urgent recruitments, and you have to hire 10 people. Now, there could be two sorts of people. The very first sort of people would just focus on completion of the work, irrespective of who they are hiring, do they align with the nature of the company. And the other set of people would be who would efficiently work on that task. They would look at the budget per person, they would look at how much can the employee bring to the table. So you understand that this term efficiently, this will keep on recurring. So whenever we are discussing something related to management, this is a very core term that you need to understand, right? Now, let us look at the very next topic, that are elements of management. You would see that there are certain bizarre terms written here and a very cute cup here, right? So what we'll do is we will learn the elements of management through this very cute little cup, right? There's just one small trick to it, that the spelling of cup, we'll add one more P and we'll call it cups. So let us look at this. You just have to remember cups, right? So the very first element of management is that it is a continuous process. So we cannot say that आज मैंने management कर लिया, कल अब मैं management नहीं करूंगी. This cannot happen, right? So management is a very continuous process. You would not even realize it, but you're managing people, you're managing your workforce, you're managing your business, you're managing your workers, you're managing your budget, you're managing the physical aspect of the business, right? So it is a continuous process. Second, that we have here is that the principles of management that we learn further, they're applicable to all sorts of, so they're universal in nature. So for example, if I tell you that the principle of management, we have planning, directing, staffing, controlling. So even if you start a very small firm, you start a cafe, you start, even if you plan on, so for example, you plan on teaching a set of students at your home, and you decide that you want to start a tuition batch, right? So obviously you will plan, obviously, for example, if you can teach English and maths, you will hire somebody to teach some other subjects, for example, accounts and economics. So there would be staffing. Then there would be organizing. You would organize your room in such a way that the students can come and comfortably sit. Then there would be controlling. You would ask the students to give you a particular sum of amount. For example, you charge 5,000 rupees, so they would probably give you those 5,000 rupees. So understand that the biggest firm in the country, be it Hindustan Unilever or be it, say, Aditya Birla, be it Tata's, they also follow the same principles of management as will you in case you start a very small tuition business at your home, right? The next aspect or element of management is that management aims at achieving some predefined goals, right? Of course. So, for example, you would have a certain goal for yourself. So, we were talking of this tuition business. So, your goal could be varied. For example, one tuition could be such a way that they just say that I want a batch of 10 students. So that is their goal. The other tuition teacher could say that I want to earn 50,000 per month. Right. So these are two different goals. So whatever goal you set, you will manage your business accordingly. You will set your management principles accordingly. So management would always aim at achieving those predefined goals, right? The next aspect is that management always deals with physical and human resources. Of course, there could be no management if there are no human resource, or there could be no management if there are no physical resources. So management would always deal with something that is physical and human in nature. And lastly, we say that management is a science and art. So management lies somewhere in between science and art. So let us understand this. It is a very interesting thing to understand. We say it is a science because it has certain principles, right? So we say that it has certain rules. It has certain regulations which you need to follow, certain principles that you need to follow. Therefore, we say that it is a science. And why do we call it an art? Because I, as a manager, would be very different from you as a manager. How I deal with my human resource, my physical resource, would be very different from how you deal with your human resource, your physical resource, right? Therefore, it differs from person to person. So, we discussed in the first slide, one could be a democrat, the other could be a dictator, right? So, even the smallest situation could be handled in a very different way from the perspective of two different people, right? Now, let us move to the next area of discussion, that is, what are the characteristics of management, right? Okay, so I have summed it up in a very easy word, that is iPad Air. I think everybody loves iPads, right? And iPad Air is also very trending. So whenever you're asked about characteristics of management, right, there's this one term, and if you remember this term, you will be very quick to remember all the characteristics of management. Let us look at the very first characteristic of management, which is that it is intangible. Now, what does this mean? So, of course, I cannot say that management is a person. No, management is a way, it is an art, it is a science. So, management cannot be touched, it cannot be seen, it cannot be felt, it can only be felt, right? How a person does a certain thing, how a person manages a certain thing can be felt. The results of management can be felt. So, for example, in a well-managed company, the profits would increase, right? The goodwill of the company would increase. Let us move to the next characteristic of management, which is P, right? Which means that it is psychology, it is economics, it is maths, it is sociology. So management is not just restricted to a particular thing. It is psychology, it is economics, maths, sociology. It is a combination of various aspects, right? Now let us see what does A stand for. So A stands for authority. In management, there will always be a chain of authority wherein the manager would have some empowerment over the workers, right? There would be some guiding force, someone sitting at the top, who will be the guiding force, right? So for example, there's a company, he's the manager, he would have certain employees, they would further have certain subordinates, and this is how it goes. So he'll have authority over the whole company, then they would have authority over him. So that is how it works. Next, for D, it stands for decision making. So in management, you will have to take some decisions. Some important decisions would have to be made, right? You cannot pursue a particular goal without taking any decision. It is central to management, right? Now, for A, again, it stands for attaining objective. We discussed it earlier as well, that management would always have some predefined goals. Here, we discussed. So, for example, P here stands for predefined goals. We discussed it, right? So, similarly, when it comes to this A, here, so attaining those objectives would be the major characteristic of management. All right. And let us look at I. What does I stand for? I stands for interdisciplinary. It is interdisciplinary. We discussed that it is psychology, it's economics, it's math, sociology. Similarly, we also discussed it's both art and science. Right. And lastly, we have R. This is the most important characteristic of management, which is returns. If there are no returns in a particular company, what is the whole need for management? What is the whole reason for that company operating? So, for example, if you have been reading some current news, Byju's recently said, the owner of Byju, CEO of Byju's, recently said that we have to cut down on our free meals and the CEOs would not be taking any pay because we need to attain our predefined goals and we have to become into a profitable company. So what is this profit? This profit is the return. This profit is the return both on investment of time. So that is what the management is. Management is all about getting a return, right? The next topic that we'll be discussing is the significance of management. So what are the significance? Why is it needed? What, with a good management, how does it add to a company, right? There's a very common statement that we use these days that yes, we did CC him in the mail. So with this statement, we would learn all the significance of management. So W here stands for wastage. So management helps us reduce wastage. It helps us reduce wastage of resources. It helps us reduce wastage of time, wastage of money, that of human resources. E here stands for what? Effective utilization so that the goals could be achieved. It stands for effective achievement of the goals, right? D here stands for duplication. So management helps us reduce duplication of work. So for example, let us take an example of an FMCG firm. So in an FMCG firm, there could be home care products, there could be household products, there could be personal care products, there could be eatables, right? So if there are 3 marketing managers in a company, they would look at a different segment. So their marketing tactics for each segment would be different. All 3 of them would not be working on the same work. Therefore, this would prevent duplication of work, right? I here stands for, it is an intermediary, right, between different functions. So in a company, same FMCG company, there would be marketing, there would be finance, there would be sales, there would be HR. So management helps each of these segments connect to each other, right? Without finance team, you cannot go ahead with your marketing plan. Without sales team, there would be no sale in the company. So what will you do with the marketing team? Without marketing team, there would be no advertisements. There would be no awareness in the market. So what will you sell? Therefore, management connects all these different functions, right? So next, D, it stands for, what we call is that it includes directing, organizing, controlling, and planning. So directing, controlling, and planning. Also staffing. C here stands for cost. So management would always reduce cost. It will increase return and it would reduce cost, right? The next C here stands for that it coordinates between individuals and group of people. And lastly, H, him. Him is an individual. Him is can also be group of people, right? So these individuals and this group of people, they have to always be in harmony for a well-functioning company. So H here stands for harmony. So management helps bring that harmony in a particular company, right? So that's all for today. So today we have learned certain keywords. The very first keyword that we discussed was cups. The second keyword that we discussed was iPad Air. And the third statement that we learned was we did CC him. This is for significance. This is for characteristics of management, and cups here would explain the elements of management. Let us now discuss a few past year questions that were asked in the examination of the NET management. The very first question that we have here is, which of the following are features of management? It is an art, it is a science, it is based on coordination of various resources. So the answer here would be all of the above. We discussed it is an art because every person would have their own style of management. We discussed that it is a science because it is focused on certain principles. And lastly, we discussed that it is based on coordination of various resources. So we discussed that it is interdisciplinary. We discussed that it helps in coordination. So the answer here is all of the above. Next question that was asked was, management is a process of designing and maintaining an environment in which individuals working together in groups efficiently accomplish selected aims. So who gave this definition? We discussed this in slide number 2, that we discussed two major definitions. One was by Mr. P. Ducker and the next one was by Mr. Heinz Wellrich and Harold Kuntz. So the answer here is Heinz Wellrich and Harold Kuntz. Because Mr. P. Ducker, the definition that he gave, he said that it is a multi-purpose organ, right? We discussed it here that it is a multi-purpose organ that manages business managers, work and workers. So with this, we end today's session. Hope you liked the video. In case you like the video, do like and subscribe the channel. I will be coming up with a lot of quirky terms so that you can easily remember the whole unit, so that you can easily crack the NTA examination for management. All the best for the examination. Take care.